In the autumn of 2013, a young mother and her 2 children went missing from their home in Deltona, Florida. 28-year-old Yessenia's last contact had been a phone call around 12 a.m. the night before she vanished. Her children did not arrive for school the next day. Suspicions immediately turned to the most likely suspect, the husband, who turned up on scene claiming to have no idea what had happened to his family. As evidence mounted against him, he began to tell an unlikely story. Would anybody believe him? Hi there, I'm Kevin, and welcome to Just Thought Lounge. Today's case has us diving into new territory for JTL, the messy world of street gangs, their bizarre moral code, and what it meant for one family who all vanished one horrible night in October 2013. Let's take a look. Yessenia Suarez met Louise Toledo at a street festival in Orange County in 2009. They fell for each other quickly and married only months later, though they made an unlikely couple. Jessie was 24 years old, a dedicated mother to 2 young children. Goal-oriented and career-minded, Jessie was a busy working single mother. Over the next few years, she also returned to school, taking classes part-time around a full-time office job. She worked at American Canine in Lake Mary, a company that provides dogs to the military and police. Louise was a few years older, but only beginning to sort out his life. He had served roughly a year in state prison on a burglary charge and had been associated with the Latin Kings. Known at the time as Semi to the gang because he punched like a truck, Louise Toledo was also interested in mixed martial arts. At one point, Louise was reportedly the 3rd highest ranking member in Florida. That is, until he served his time and decided to turn on his former associates and his former life. He cooperated with the state and testified in a racketeering case against other gang members. And then he refocused his efforts on building a new life. Louise began taking courses at community college to become a barber. He was baptized and joined the church. He socialized with neighbors, even carpooling to class every day with a younger student across the street. Louise also became a dad to Yessenia's 2 children, 9-year-old Talia Otto and 8-year-old Michael Elijah Otto. Neighbors recounted the sight of Louise playing with the children on the front yard was a regular occurrence. Felicita Nieves Perez spoke with her daughter Yessenia every morning. She and her husband, Jesse's stepfather, Ruben Perez, lived only a few blocks away from Jesse's house on Covent Gardens Place. Around 8 a.m. on October 23rd, Felicita called her daughter's cell phone and received no answer. Over the next 2 hours, additional calls and texts went unanswered. Felicita received no response from Louise either. By 10 a.m. that morning, the mother was deeply concerned. So she drove over to her daughter's house. No one answered the front door. Felicita called the police.
I haven't heard from my daughter since last night. I know she was having some issues with her husband.
And you think maybe she's endangered by her husband?
Yes, ma'am.
The Volusia County Police had learned of an incident at Yessenia's workplace the day before. Investigators learned that the marriage hit a rough patch at least in part because Yessenia felt that Louise was neglecting his duties at home. He spent too much time playing video games. As the marriage soured, Yessenia began an affair with a married coworker at American Canine Solutions, a man named Kevin Dredden. Louise grew suspicious. He placed a spy device and some form of tracker on her phone, and he discovered the affair. On October 22nd, Louise arrived uninvited at the American Canine office building and caused a scene. A colleague had called 911 during the encounter.
Yes, I was wondering if I could have a police officer come to an office building. We have somebody in a building that will not leave, and he's not an employee. He isn't to leave yet? Yeah, we have. What's the address?
When he turned up at the office building, he confronted Yessenia and sought out Kevin.
One of your jobs to know how you go ahead and go a couple of tricks and all around forward. It's not true. And I got some messages to show you, Bobby. I got some messages to show you.
Louise eventually left the building of his own accord before police arrived. Yessenia spoke with officers. She was recorded telling them about Louise's controlling behavior. He had even slapped her in her office building in front of her colleagues.
I there on my phone to see everything that I do for him, but I do because for myself and professional. Dicky stuff too. He claimed that I'm not in a relationship with one of my coworkers. Mm-hmm. He hit me here, right here, literally. He slapped me on my face.
Felicita had overheard an argument between her daughter and her son-in-law the night before, after the incident at Jesse's office. The couple had decided that they were getting a divorce. Jesse and Louise were with the children at their grandparents' home having dinner. As the children ate inside, the couple discussed logistics in the garage. Not surprisingly, the conversation turned heated at points. Emotions were running high. As the evening wore on, Felicita asked her daughter to stay at her house with the children overnight, to let Louise go home alone. Yessenia refused. She believed that it was better that they talk things through and that she and Louise handle the split amicably. She said goodbye to her mother and took the children home with her. It was the last time that Felicita would see her daughter or grandchildren alive. Louise Toledo arrived at the house while the Volusia County Police were performing the welfare check.
Mr. Toledo came on scene and started talking with deputies and causing a bit of a disturbance.
Louise told officers that it appeared that his wife had left with the children in the middle of the night. At first, investigators considered this scenario. It was not inconceivable that Yessenia had packed up and left the man that she had already decided to divorce. Though it did not explain why she had not spoken with her mother, stepfather, or sister, who were all growing extremely concerned. Jesse's 2013 Honda Accord was missing from the garage, along with her purse and cell phone. Inside, officers found the house was in near-perfect order. It was clean, almost too clean. Fresh laundry sat out ready for folding, and the children's toys were scattered on the floors, but nothing was amiss. There was no signs of a break-in, distress, or a struggle. The most unsettling observation made by officers was the smell. The distinct scent of Pine Sol, a popular floor cleaner. Down the hallway towards the bedroom and master bathroom, they smelt bleach and possibly vinegar, all mingled together in the air. It was a nauseating mixture that immediately set off alarm bells.
It's killing us. It's killing everybody. We don't want to even think about it anymore, you know? I don't want to think what happened. I don't want to know.
Two neighbors, sisters, who lived next door, told the police on the scene that they had been awake late into the night when they heard a noise coming from outside. They could make out screams from the direction of the Suarez-Toledo home and a voice calling out more than once, "Help me." The girls thought that this had occurred sometime around midnight. There were often groups of teenagers messing around in the neighborhood after dark. Until the girls saw the police on the street the next morning, they had dismissed what they had heard the previous night as nothing more than these local youths playing around. In light of the incident at the office the day before, law enforcement was able to arrest Louise and bring him in for questioning. Louise told detectives that he was awake at the house the evening before until about 1 a.m. At that time, he had walked out to the street, spoke with a neighbor, and then chose to go sleep in his car. Yessenia and the children were asleep in the house. He awoke at roughly 8 a.m. and went back inside to find that Jesse and the children had left in the night.
When you woke up, you went to the house and you left. How long were you there for?
Maybe like 40 minutes, bro.
20 minutes. Right? So you walked into the house, front door, right? You walked around, you didn't see him. You went up to the bedrooms, right? You didn't see him in the bedrooms. Checked the garage, car's gone. You started looking for her phone, your phone, my phone, the house phone too.
Yeah, house.
Okay. Just if I miss anything, let me know.
Good.
You said, oh, they're not here. So you change, or you get your clothes, you take a shower in the master bathroom.
Louise questioned whether Yessenia and the children were even missing. It had only been a few hours.
She's with her mom. Why was she missing or not telling her mom?
That's the thing is, like,
That's the thing I think does.
she is not the type that you guys stay with her.
No?
No. Sure. So my wife is not the type to tell everybody her every move. She's probably.
While questioning continued, investigators were in contact with officers at the house who continued to speak with neighbors. The two young girls who overheard screaming in the middle of the night were not the only witnesses who came forward. A college student who lived with his mother across the street, Tyshawn Jackson, came forward as well, albeit reluctantly. Tyshawn had a stressful morning. The community college student told police that it began at 6 a.m. when Louise Toledo knocked on his door and asked him for a favor. Could he get into his car and follow Louise about a half an hour south to Lake Mary? It seems that Louise needed to drop off his wife's car, the Honda Accord, and then get a lift home. Ty threw on his sandals and grabbed his car keys, expecting to follow Louise to a mechanic's shop or someplace similar. Maybe the Honda needed a brake job, he thought. But that was not, in fact, what he was about to witness. Tyshawn was asked to recount his story to detectives at the station. He spoke with them for hours. He said that he followed Louise, who drove the Honda Accord, for about 20 to 30 minutes. When they reached a large parking lot at the Publix supermarket, Louise parked the Honda. Ty then watched as his neighbor got out of the vehicle and systematically and thoroughly took a spray cleaner and a rag to wipe down the car. He cleaned the door jamb, and all the handles.
What exactly happened? As soon as you pull up, what do you see?
I see Louis standing outside. Like he's by the door, he looked back at me. Then he looked back and started cleaning the car down, wiping it down. As soon as he cleaned the car stuff, I had a feeling like something bad happened in the house last night.
Louise instructed Ty to move into the passenger seat of his car so that he could drive them back to Deltona. On the ride back, the two men were silent. The tension in the car was palpable as Ty tried to sort out what exactly he had just witnessed. And things only grew more unsettling for the college student when Louise pulled into the parking lot of an apartment building, stopped the car, and began disposing of items he had carried with him in a plastic bag. This included the spray cleaner and rag used to clean his wife's car, as well as one of the floor mats. Ty was dropped off around the corner from his house, near to a 7-Eleven. He walked into the store and purchased a pack of cigarettes. Stressed and confused, he told officers that before going home, he smoked several of them. Then he tried to call his mother at work, repeatedly, to ask her what he should do next. In another interrogation room, Louise was being pressured to explain what Tyshawn had just offered. If his story could be verified, everything Louise had said about his missing wife and children so far was a blatant lie. Unsure whether she and the kids were still alive, they were running out of time.
Do you have anything to do with their disappearance?
No.
No, nothing whatsoever.
No.
Okay. If I have information, if I'm gathering information that suggests that you may have, okay?
That's impossible.
It's impossible.
That's impossible.
Okay. So you just gotta realize that, okay? Regardless of what happened, it is what it is now, right? Our main objective right now is to find out where they are, whether they're safe or not, is to locate.
And I know what happened, and I exactly told you what happened, and that's what happened between me and her. And that's how it's been since, last night.
There's nothing you're leaving out that might steer us in a better direction.
There's nothing that I can think of.
Admitting nothing, Louise was confronted with what Tyshawn had told investigators one room over.
He came over and asked me for a ride, and I followed him and dropped the car off and run back. Yeah. That's not a true statement. That's right. This person has no reason to lie to us. It was more of a favor to you to take you there, is what it was expressed to us. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that person really would have no reason to lie to us about it.
We need to go through his things to see if any auto possessions are in his possession, things like that.
Ty led detectives to the Publix parking lot where they located Yessenia's Honda Accord. Inside, they found Yessenia's purse, her ID and wallet, as well as her badge for work. Her cell phone had fallen in between the front seat and the console. There was no sign of her or the children. The car was later processed for DNA, blood, or fingerprints, but returned nothing of value. They found only a garage door opener that still had a fingerprint on it. That was from Louise Toledo. In the dumpsters where Ty claimed Louise had disposed of multiple items, police uncovered clothing, children's toys, a barber's apron, the trunk liner from Yessenia's car, as well as a dirty boot. A small but clearly visible speck of blood was found on the discarded boot. Traces of blood were also found on the floor mat, which had been taken from Yessenia's car. As predicted, forensic teams in the house found that targeted areas had been cleaned thoroughly. In the garbage bin outside of the home, an officer found a trash bag smelling of vinegar and containing multiple empty bottles of cleaner, as well as a very wet shower curtain. Detectives also uncovered a collection of newspaper articles in the house discussing recent activities of the Latin Kings, Louise's former organization. It seems that he had left the life, but his interest in the gang remained. Despite the cleaning efforts, there was one area that had been missed. In the bathroom, just off of the master bedroom, 23 traces of blood were identified. They were spattered across the closet door, the door frame to the bathroom, the bathtub, and floor. 14 of these samples returned the same match, to 9-year-old Talia. Her mother and little brother's blood was not found anywhere in the house.
Based on our investigative findings, the Volusia County Sheriff's Office's Major Case Unit has discovered that the missing mother from Deltona and her 2 children are deceased. The search for the victims' bodies and the investigation into what happened is ongoing. Now, because of the ongoing nature of this, there's not really much else that I can tell you. There's not many other investigative details that I can reveal.
What can an 8-year-old and a 9-year-old cost to someone for them to kill them? There's no words for that.
A massive search effort was launched to locate Yessenia, Talia, and Michael.
We are going to take and stay with this till we've searched everything that we think we can possibly search. We're starting once again back at the center, back at the house, and from there, we're going to start expanding out. We've set it up in the search grid.
It's very important to find my grandkids, my daughter, so I can put closer to this.
You can't sit home?
No, I can't. No way I'm going to sit home.
2 days had passed since the family went missing, and Louise was still refusing to admit any responsibility. Then, during his 3rd interview, under pressure from the increasing evidence stacking up against him, Louise broke down. He began to offer a confession, or at least part of one. He claimed that on the night of October 22nd, Tyshawn Jackson had come over to his house to play with his PlayStation. Yessenia hated it when he played video games, he said. Having already argued earlier in the day and a divorce on the horizon, this small irritation sparked an argument that quickly went from heated to explosive.
Going off on me, whatever, da-da-da, and she told that she wanted everybody to leave. She wanted me to get out the house. I told her I didn't have to go. She came at me, grabbed me on the back. She grabbed me from the back. I just got upset. I got so tired of her grabbing on me. I couldn't get her open. She fell down on the floor, holding her neck, looking at me. She couldn't breathe.
Louise Toledo was trained in martial arts. Mimicking a chopping action, he said a single strike had been the fatal blow. He did this in response to her attacking him. On the crucial question of what happened to the children, Louise would admit to nothing. It was Tyshawn, he said, who saw them as potential witnesses to what had just happened to their mother. Yessenia's death would be interpreted as murder, and simply being present would implicate him. It was a risk that the college student was unwilling to take.
He came back out, he asked me if she was dead. I said, yeah. He went back to the bathroom. I heard blah, blah, blah. I said, oh my God, Tyshawn, you killed my kids. Killed my kids. So he took the shovel, he put him in the car in the trunk. I helped him carry them. And he left and I started cleaning everything up. I don't know what he did with them. I don't know. I'll tell you, I don't know where they at. I don't know.
Louise maintained that the bodies of his family were driven from the house by Ty Jackson and hidden somewhere. He had no idea where they were. Over hours of intense interrogation by the Volusia County Police, he never wavered from this assertion. The only hope of finding Yessenia and the children was with Louise, or perhaps his alleged accomplice, Ty Jackson.
And he put you as the primary person responsible for some of their deaths. Not all of them, but some of them.
He did not put me in no primary respect like that.
He did. Why would I with you?
I did not have anything to do with their death. I did not leave my house Wednesday night at all. Zero. Left my house 6:11 Thursday morning.
Tyshawn was not placed under arrest. His assistance in locating the Honda Accord and the numerous items disposed of in local dumpsters convinced law enforcement that he was telling the truth, though he had hesitated to come forward that morning. Ty said that he was frightened of what his former friend would do to him if he was spotted speaking with police at the house, but once he began talking, his story lined up. He told the police that on the car ride back to Deltona that morning, Louise had spoken to him only once. He turned to Ty and simply stated, "I snapped."
Is he talking like you and I right now, or is like an elevated or quiet? What was it?
Like it was kind of kind of calm almost. Kind of scared me, when he looked at me and said it.
Searches continued in the woodland areas surrounding Deltona. Volunteer organizations from out of state descended upon the region to offer further assistance, but they kept coming up empty. Every item that could possibly have been linked to the massacre was bagged and tested. A still wearable pair of children's shoes in a park trash can, an abandoned jacket in the woods. None of these items were found to have any value to the investigation.
Louise Toledo could tell us where they're at, and we wouldn't have to worry about this. We could take and bring closure to this and make sure the families know where their loved ones are.
For weeks following the disappearance, ground searches took place across 3 counties. Retention ponds within a mile of the Suarez-Toledo house were combed, and a local landfill was picked through for any evidence that had not been located in the dumpsters. There was a concern that without locating the bodies of the family, the state would be unable to bring murder charges or that prosecutors may have problems getting a conviction. But they had the blood in the bathroom, a partial confession, the dumpster items, and Louise's explosive behavior in the office over his wife's affair gave a clear motive.
It's possible to prosecute someone without a physical body of a victim. It's very rare, but it has been done.
Louise Toledo faced first and second degree murder charges for the killing of his wife and 2 children. He faced a possible death sentence if convicted. Ann Wedge McMillan was the prosecutor with whom Louise Toledo cooperated in the racketeering case against a leader of the Latin Kings in Florida, Jose Perez, also known as King Goofy years earlier. The attorney spoke with Louise again following his murder arrest. He had agreed to talk to her once. Perhaps he would again.
Did he talk about cleaning the house?
He did talk about cleaning the house.
He talked about cleaning his house after his family's dead.
Yes.
But Toledo didn't tell her where the bodies are, and Wedge McMillan thinks it's possible he legitimately doesn't know.
I think the reason he doesn't know is that he probably got someone else involved so that he would have plausible deniability.
In his gangster days, Louise was known as King Semi, and reportedly also a high-ranking member of the gang. According to McMillan, he was considered the warlord or enforcer.
His knowledge of how to clean a crime scene, how to dispose of evidence, how to dispose of bodies. He was
the expert at that.
He was. In certain circumstances, the hierarchy of the kings will sanction a murder based solely on disrespect.
But the gang does not sanction the killing of children. For this reason, McMillan suggested, Louise needed to point the finger at somebody else. At trial, the prosecution argued that Louise had been motivated by a jealous rage. They called Yessenia's co-worker, with whom she had a brief affair, to establish motive. Kevin Dredden was also the last person, aside from her husband, to speak with her before she died.
Did you and Yessenia Suarez spend additional time together, away from the other employees?
We did.
Okay. During that time, did you have an affair with Yessenia Suarez?
I did.
Do you regret doing that?
I do.
Kevin and Yessenia had plans to meet on the afternoon of October 22nd, the day before she died. Kevin canceled those plans last minute. That night, after a series of strange texts from Yessenia's phone, he finally spoke with her directly. She sounded strange. Her speech was slurred. She was scared.
In that response, were you satisfied that everything was okay in her world?
No.
Dredden, was Yessenia Suarez's speech slurred that evening?
It was.
Okay. Was it a difficult conversation?
It was.
Okay. How did she seem to you? Was she happy? Was she upset? Was she sad?
She didn't seem, well, she wasn't happy. She was very soft in her words and very severely slurred in her speech.
Did she seem to want to stay in her home that evening?
Yes.
Were you concerned for her safety staying there?
I was. I was law enforcement, and the first thing they tell you to do is separate for any domestic violence. And I told her to think about the kids.
Louise's defense focused on the possibility that Tyshawn Jackson was responsible for the murders of Talia and Michael. Investigators had given him a polygraph test. They searched his house and his car for anything linking him to the crime scene. Nothing incriminating was uncovered. When Ty took the stand, he explained why he had initially refused to speak with law enforcement on the morning of the disappearance. He was frightened of Louise Toledo. He told the jury about what he had witnessed that morning.
Describe his behavior for us.
He looked out the norm. He was just like kind of frantic almost, I want to say.
What was he doing?
He was driving, like looking around, like just looking everywhere, just kind of like rocking back and forth. Like he was driving, like looking back and forth, looking like he's like looking for something.
Was he speaking to you?
He didn't speak much to me, but he said one thing really.
What did he say?
He said he snapped.
When he said that to you, how did he say it?
Just like, I'm sorry, I can't really explain. Like something happened or something like that. Like he had to go, like he had bottled up emotion inside him, something like that, you know?
Was he looking, where was he looking?
At that point he was looking at me.
Did you ask him what he meant?
No, sir.
Why?
I didn't want further details. I kind of seen what happened earlier, and him saying that kind of put two and two together that something wrong happened. And honestly, I wanted to get home.
You like the kids?
They're nice kids.
Do you feel close to them?
Yes.
Do you have anything to do with their death?
No.
Sergeant Kurt Shopes, who questioned Louise for days after the disappearance, told the jury that Louise had, in fact, implied that he knew where the bodies of his family had been hidden. On the last day of his questioning, Louise repeatedly requested trips to the station's bathroom, which was directly across the hallway from the interview room where he was being questioned. On the second trip, the sergeant stood near to the doorway speaking with his detainee. According to the sergeant, his mobile recording device slipped into his pocket by request of Louise, lost a battery, and stopped recording. The former gang member then asked him for a favor.
He asked me in a pleading voice that he wanted to go home. Asked me to take him home.
Okay. Did you ask him why he wanted to go home?
I did. And he went into how he just wanted to die. He wanted to die where his family died.
Okay. And did he get explicit with you on sort of how this is going to go down at his house? How was he going to die at his house?
Yes. He initiated that I can shoot him. We can take him back to the house. I can loosen his cuffs, and myself or another deputy, right, could shoot him as he's trying to escape, or he can grab a knife and try to escape.
Tell me where the bodies were first. And then he replied immediately that he's never going to tell me where the bodies are. So the defendant said, I'm never going to tell you where the bodies are.
That's correct. Right after my first statement on just telling us where the bodies are first, he responded with, I'm never going to tell where the bodies are. And then he became aggressive. And that's when I called an investigator, poured up, and we concluded the interview there.
Okay.
After some time back in the original interview room, Louise again requested to use the bathroom. For a third time that session, the sergeant took Louise across the hall. This time, Louise had hatched yet another plan. He managed to surprise the officers by pushing the door, which opened inwards, closed. From inside the bathroom, the sergeant heard a noise similar to shattering glass. Louise had smashed the mirror that had hung above the sink. He used the pieces to cut himself on the arm.
And what did you find once you were able to make entry into the bathroom?
Well, we weren't able to open the door at that time. We were able to put a hole in the door. We were able to tase him through the door, at which time it allowed us to push the door open, and we were able to drag him out.
Okay.
Louise was treated in the hospital for non-life-threatening injuries. The prosecution argued that Yessenia's affair had given Louise a justification, in his mind, to lose his temper and kill her. But he would not admit to killing his children, because there could never be a justification for that.
So the plan at that point was to deny what he could not admit. If he admitted killing the children, that was the end game. He had to find someone else to blame for their murder. And that's where Tyshawn Jackson comes in.
The jury found Louise Toledo guilty of 2 counts of first-degree murder for the deaths of Talia and Michael Otto. He was convicted of second-degree murder for the death of Yessenia. In the sentencing phase of his trial, the murderer's attorneys fought to keep their client off of death row, though he had initially requested to waive the mitigation phase, hoping for a death sentence. During the trial, Louise's cooperation with the state to bring down King Goofy and other members of the Latin Kings was highly publicized. At his sentencing, Louise stated that, "A one-sided story saying that I testified against the head Latin King, and that alone right there basically put a hunt on my head." If he was sentenced to life on death row, Louise would have been afforded greater protection. Death row inmates each have their own cell and are escorted in handcuffs when moving around, without exception, anywhere outside of their cells. The inmates are kept at a distance from each other if more than one is out of his cell at a time. Second, Louise stated, "I've been convicted of a crime against children, so Latin Kings don't sanction that. And I have been convicted of a crime against a woman, and they don't sanction that either." He felt that he would be safer on death row, and regardless of whether the jury spared his life, he was being handed a death sentence. His final statement at the hearing made this clear. "If I touch any institution, I'm a dead man walking the minute I hit that compound." 2 of the 12 jurors hearing the case determined that Louise Toledo should not be put to death.
The jurors were asked that if you were remorseful about the killings. By a vote of 12-0, they said no. Not even the 2 people who voted to spare your life found any remorse in your actions or your statements. I totally concur with their findings. I don't believe you're remorseful. And as such, you will receive no mercy from the court.
He was instead handed down 3 life sentences without the possibility of parole.
He knows how the prison system works, and he'll get what's coming to him, whether it's here on earth or without. So happy. Just happy with the decision, happy with the judge, and I'm happy I don't have to see this man ever again.
As of April 2024, Louise Toledo's prison record is active. He is currently serving 3 concurrent life sentences in the general prison population. Louise Toledo has stuck to his story. He insists that he is not responsible for the deaths of Talia and Michael, and he has no idea where his family is. That was the tragic case of Yessenia Suarez, Talia and Michael Otto, and the former gang enforcer, Louise Toledo. Thanks for watching and supporting the channel. A special shout out to Lisa Marie, who has joined the Members Lounge. Your extra support is really appreciated. I'm Kevin, this is Just Thought Lounge, and I'll see you in the next one.
But these stories can't hide, let me find my seat. Kevin, go ahead and settle in. Gotta be selective, doing all the research, keeping it objective. Always been effective, can say he got a knack. Pick of the litter, you see how Newton got his back. Yeah, the content that you need, this could be a new sign. We talk in the comments, they jot in a few lines. Tune in and hit like, love that, it's too kind. Feels like the whole world is online for true crime. Watch him on the run, but it's not a race. Really hard to disappear, poof without a trace.